Not the daycare, the pool. The daycare was already there. He's just saying that he lived over here.
She lived right here, yeah.
Right there.
Save it for later. Save it. Save all that knowledge. Okay, so this height is for him. Okay, so hi everyone. And welcome to today's special celebration of someone who was here, born, raised in Union City, became an excellent poet, and today we're here to honor her memory, her legacy. Welcome to Janine's family, friends. I don't know who's here, who's actually able to make it. I'm sorry. Also to Communications Associate of the Hoboken Historical Museum, Vera Sirota. Vera was actually one of the first people that informed us of this idea, brought it up to the mayor, sent a letter, and started the ball rolling. Also, Hoboken Historical Museum poet in residence, Danny Schatz, also here, so thank you very much. He also had a great part in dealing with this and preparing for today, as well as Washington Park Associate poet in residence, Ed Majan, who also, I think, was part of the triangle that began all of this ball rolling. So thank you, Ed, for bringing this up, to our attention, as well as Vera and everybody else. Also, we have Commissioner Grijon with us today, and we have Commissioner Valdivia. Thank you for joining us. Before we continue, I would like to ask everyone to stand for our national anthem. Sit. Thank you very much. Okay, so as the first person to say a few words, please, Commissioner Grijon.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. It's a great honor to be here celebrating this dedication ceremony to honor the life and legacy of Janine Vega, someone well known in our community for her significant contributions to poetry and education. On behalf of our Mayor Brian Stack and the Board of Commissioners, we are very proud to rename this street to honor her legacy and all her contributions to education and poetry. Again, thank you all, and we are very happy today. Thank you.
I was talking to Danny before about this. We always have Mayor Stack's name on our little, program, and we always hope that he drives by. As you all know, he would love to be at every event, but he's always having these community meetings. And sometimes we get lucky, and he finishes a meeting, and he's like, oh, wait, let me stop by. But unfortunately, he's still not here. Maybe we'll get lucky, and he'll drop by. I don't know. But I'm sure, he respects all of his residents here before. He respects our legacy, everybody's legacy, and how everybody has contributed to this town. He loves Union City, as everybody knows. And so I'm sure that if he could have been here, he would have loved to have been here. Now, without further ado, Commissioner Valdivia.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's always an honor when you're naming a street after a teacher. Now, but we have the double now. We have a poet too, who wrote many books. I read a little bit about her, and it comes on the year that Union City's celebrating 100 years, a centennial. We celebrated that in front of City Hall on Tuesday evening. It was a great event, and now the first street that we're naming is after a teacher and a poet. I love teachers. I have a sister that's a teacher, and I regret that I didn't become a teacher. I would have been a good history teacher.
Oh, yeah.
So congratulations to all her friends, and if there's any families, for giving this information to Lily and the mayor, so that they could name this after a teacher and a poet. Congratulations. Can I have your glasses? Or you should.
You know, okay.
So, you should read it.
We'll do it. No, you can read it, but we're going to do this a little bit different then. Okay. You know what? Before we do this, why don't we have a few words from Vera? And then I believe we're going to have some words read from Janine's books. So, Vera, if you would step up, please, to say a few words. We'll do the presentation afterwards.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Liliana Barrera, our commissioners, Valdivia and Grujon, and to the ones who couldn't join us, Mayor Stack, and Commissioners Martinetti and Fernandez, our honored guests and friends and family of Janine Pomy Vega, who are present here with us today and tuning in via live stream. My name is Vera Sirota, and I am the Communications Associate for the Hoboken Historical Museum. We are gathered here today to celebrate the life, legacy, and Union and City roots of beat poet Janine Pomy Vega. In December 2024, the museum's poet-in-residence, Danny Schott, he hosted a poetry event to pay tribute to Janine, and it was called Roots Revisited. Hudson County poets Millicent Ansa, Elliot Katz, Yetvert S. Magian, and I were the featured readers. We felt it was our duty to uplift Janine, who for too long has not received her proper due. So as a next step, with the support of Yetvart and Danny, we contacted Mayor Stack, who recognized the value of this effort to preserve Janine's memory. And this led to the drafting and passing of a street naming resolution by the commissioners and shepherded by Liliana, the special events coordinator of the Department of Public Affairs, which brings us all here today. Janine grew up on 47th Street. She described how her elementary school was around the corner, her best friend lived across the street, and the library was 3 blocks away. Janine's formative years were spent here in Union City, culminating with an amazing accomplishment, her graduation at the age of 16 as class valedictorian. Now, there are many important accomplishments and accolades of Janine's that we could highlight, but I'll name just a few. Janine was only the 3rd woman author to be published by City Lights in the Pocket Poet series with her book Poems to Fernando. Absolutely, she wrote over 20 books of poetry and prose. Janine traveled the world, across 4 continents in fact, climbed mountains, and even lived as a hermit on the Isla del Sol on the Bolivian-Peruvian border for 2 years, and she learned fluent Spanish along the way. Janine, as mentioned, was an amazing teacher. She dedicated over 25 years to teaching poetry in correctional facilities. As director of Incisions Arts, and as part of the Bard Prison Initiative. She coordinated anthologies that amplified the talents and voices of inmates' poets. And she was a proud member of the Penn Prison Writing Committee. Janine embraced poetry as an essential act of activism. She stood proudly against imperialist wars and in support of immigrant rights. She taught poetry to migrant workers at Geneseo Migrant Center, and she even coordinated a bilingual anthology of their poems, Estamos Aquí, and wrote her own chapbook, The Walker, which she dedicated to, quote, the hundreds of migrant workers who make up in heart and dignity what they lack in papers. Janine resisted gender norms of her time, which dictated that women only be mothers and wives. She lived boldly and proudly as a poet, teacher, and world traveler. She opened doors so we could walk through them. She has left us a blueprint for leading a life of creativity and activism. Absolutely. We look forward to continued ongoing efforts to share Janine's legacy in her home community of Union City and beyond. So on behalf of us all, thank you to Mayor Stack, Commissioners Fernandez, Martinetti, Valdivia, Grujon, and Ms. Liliana Barrera for bringing this street naming to fruition. So please join me in thanking them. And it's now my honor to call up to the podium a dear colleague, mentor, wonderful poet, the poet in residence of the Hoboken Historical Museum, Danny Schott.
I'd like to thank Union City for doing this. This is really something special. I'd also like to wish Union City happy 100th birthday. That's a big deal. It's an honor to be here to honor Janine Pomy Vega. Let me do it by reading a poem. The title of this poem is 239 47th Street. And I believe 239 would be right about there. 239 47th Street. There's a card game in the vestibule of an old apartment building. Somebody dropped the keys into a mailbox, and the woman in the flowered dress pushed back her chair, her tells intentionally camouflaged. The second floor railroad apartment, 16 steps up on the left, has doors in the front and back, 6 rooms, 3 closets, and a pantry draped with skeletons over wire hangers from Hamamjian dry cleaners down the block. Come back here and pick up your clothes. Downstairs on the right is a family of brothers, all ball players. Basketball, baseball, football, punch ball, stick ball, stoop ball, and a mother with asthma and red hair. Smack in the middle of Palisade Avenue, the new through street, the demolished building shimmers with the tendency of hindsight. Clamped to the deep with cement lions built into its walls, it has anchored itself like implanted teeth in the archaeology of dreams. Janine Pomy Vega. And it's my pleasure now to bring up Washington Park Association poet in residence, Yetvart, who some of you know as Ed, Yetvart Majian.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to first thank the mayor and the Board of Commissioners for seeing the importance of honoring Janine Pomy Vega as an ancestor of poetry that comes from Union City. She was born in Jersey City, so Washington Park is between these two cities. She was born in Jersey City, was raised in Union City, went across the river to New York City, met the Beats, and became a voice that now belongs to the entire world. She was a harbinger of conscience and truth. She stood against wars. She was a poet of conscience. And it just makes me think, and I'm really proud to do poetry in Union City today. The Poetry Unfold has been in Union City for 3 years, and we see poets write their first poems, read them with shaky hands, then give their first features and add their voice to the conversation in the world. And that's, I think, what Janine would have really wanted. And so it's really, really special to have our poetry ancestor in Union City honored. So thank you, Lily, for facilitating this. Thank you to the commissioners and to the mayor for doing this. I'd like to honor Janine with I was going to read one longer poem, but it was a little too much, so I decided to read 2 short poems that I think really capture different elements of this poetic voice that had a lot of range. The first one is Wartime Kitchen, and I think it's very apt for the moment that we're in. It was written in 2003, so it was written during the war in Iraq, and so we've just witnessed Iran. There's one thing I should say. Yanis Ritsos is mentioned here. Yanis Ritsos was a Greek poet, was an anti-war poet during World War II. So in the very first sentence, we start off, Wartime Kitchen. I think of Yanis Ritsos women marching to the kitchen at the first sound of war. I think of the bulk of Grandma in Jersey City, a bulk I could never duplicate as I pad across the floor to grind the sweet basil grown last season, to brush the cat, to chop garlic for salad dressing. Deliberately quiet tasks. Though I could start throwing pots around like my mother, I can tell you, make such a ruckus you would wonder who had gone insane, and it's the world. In the photos I will not bring home, in the leering, sneering posture of an imposter president put in charge by corporate fists. I could show you how weeping has worn a hole in my heart as deep as the slippers she thrust her feet in cold Polish mornings. I've become that babushka woman, witnessing carnage. All wisecracks are out of place. No jokes for broken children or screaming mothers. Dead soldiers are children themselves. No jokes for the children, everybody's children. I do not forgive their slaughter. The oil, the arms, the gold piled high as this house cannot buy their laughter, cannot bury their shrieks in the night. I accuse the old white men drowned in greed of their murder. I will bang every pot and pan I own for a world free from their hands. Janine, Pomy, Vega.